That is until Travis Kelce pushed the train off the tracks. Travis Kelce, I am not your dragon either, Ryan. He unfollowed the actor on Instagram.
So we haven't seen all the facts yet. According to Ryan Reynolds, he is getting darker and darker.
Good for them. I'm rooting for Wrexham and the team, but I just hate how Ryan and specifically Blake now get to use this as sort of a big PR opportunity for them. It's frustrating to me, I gotta be honest. We're gonna come back to the reasons in a second and go through the details, but I wanna rewind and show everybody what a weekend it was. Now, this was the weekend of the time, or I guess the Friday-ish.
But Blake is loving it. She is loving the attention. Ryan is loving the attention. He's getting tanner by the minute. So many people have commented on his tan.
I can't knock the Wrexham fans out there who are enjoying this win, which Ryan and Rob, to both of their credit, helped to get this team where it's at. It's just frustrating to see that she got to get shoehorned in there. She's gushing over the win as well, and of course posting all her pictures from the day. And there she is, of course, and I don't like her style. I just don't like it.
They showed up in Wales cheering on Ryan Reynolds' football team or soccer team, Wrexham. They were all over the place, all over the arena.
Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds, the PR empire crumbling in Hollywood, where everything glitters and everyone smiles. Sometimes the brightest facades hide the darkest secrets. Travis Kelce just shattered the illusion with one simple click. The NFL. Star unfollowed Ryan Reynolds on Instagram. And not just any day, but during the biggest weekend of Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds' carefully orchestrated PR tour. This wasn't a casual social media cleanse. This was April 2025, the weekend of the Time 100 Gala, Wrexham's victory celebration, and Blake Lively's Simple Favor sequel premiere. The timing couldn't have been more deliberate, or more damning. Travis didn't just scroll past Reynolds' profile. He looked at Hollywood's golden boy and essentially said, "I'm not your dragon either, bro." The message was clear. I want nothing to do with what's happening behind the scenes. And what makes this unfollow so significant is that Travis isn't just any celebrity. He's dating Taylor Swift, one of Blake's supposed closest friends. This wasn't just a personal rejection. It was a public declaration of distrust that sent shockwaves through Hollywood's elite circles. The man who's typically careful with his public image decided this was worth the inevitable headlines. As social media erupted with speculation, one thing became crystal clear. Something catastrophic was happening behind those perfectly filtered Instagram posts. For years, Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds have sold us an image of Hollywood's most relatable power couple. The quirky parents with the perfect marriage, the witty Instagram banter, the glamorous, yet somehow down-to-earth lifestyle. Their brand has been meticulously crafted, a delicate balance of aspirational yet attainable. They've positioned themselves as the antidote to typical Hollywood superficiality, with Ryan's self-deprecating humor and Blake's "I'm just like you but with better clothes" persona, creating an empire built on perceived authenticity. And last weekend should have been their crowning glory, Thursday at the Time 100 Gala, celebrating Blake's selection as an influential figure, though many questioned what exactly she had influenced beyond Instagram aesthetics. The couple arrived in coordinated outfits, their smiles so wide and unwavering that they almost seemed painted on. Blake gushed over the honor while simultaneously posting meticulously staged photos that somehow managed to highlight both her humility and her designer gown. "So blessed," she captioned, while allegedly orchestrating one of Hollywood's most calculated character assassinations behind the scenes. Friday found them in Wales, cheering Ryan's Wrexham football club to victory. Blake, despite having no previous connection to the team or apparent interest in soccer, positioned herself front and center, full glam in a stadium setting, posing with players and fans as if she'd been part of the journey all along. Not content to be a supportive spouse in the background. She inserted herself into every photo opportunity, turning what should have been Ryan's moment into the Blake and Ryan show. Social media noticed the calculated nature of it all, the perfect angles, the strategic PDA, the way she somehow managed to be the focal point of a soccer celebration that had nothing to do with her. Then straight to New York for Blake's film premiere. Another Simple Favor, a sequel that was already generating mixed reviews, but suddenly found itself overshadowed by the real-life drama unfolding around its star. The red carpet was a masterclass in avoidance, with Blake floating through interviews with practiced soundbites while carefully steering conversations away from anything substantive. Ryan stood beside her, his perpetually tanned face somehow getting darker with each appearance, nodding supportively as if reading from an invisible script. When asked about working with director Paul Feig again, Blake responded with rehearsed enthusiasm. sarcasm, while Feig himself looked uncomfortable, later describing her as intimidating, with the nervous energy of someone bound by NDAs. The smiles were so wide, the PDA so calculated, you'd think they were celebrating the happiest moment of their lives, not running from what was unfolding in the courtroom. Every hand squeeze, every whispered joke caught on camera felt like a performance designed to draw attention away from the legal documents being filed across town. As one social media user aptly commented, they're not just putting on a show, they're staging a full Broadway production to distract us from the real plot. Because behind those forced smiles and coordinated outfits, a legal nightmare was erupting. Court documents, real legal filings, not tabloid speculation, revealed something genuinely shocking. Stephanie Jones, Blake's former associate, allegedly had continued access to Jennifer Abel's iCloud account until January 2025, months after their professional relationship ended. The legal language was clear and damning. Jones's gross invasion of privacy would not stop upon her departure. In fact, it escalated. This wasn't just casual snooping. This was digital surveillance on a federal offense level, accessing private texts, medical records, conversations with legal counsel, real-time monitoring of someone's entire digital existence. Let that sink in for a moment. January 2025. Not a brief accidental overlap after their professional split, but months of alleged continued access. While Abel was moving on with her career, someone was potentially reading her most private thoughts, medical information, and legal strategy in real time. The court filings described it as digital stalking with federal-level consequences, painting a picture not of accidental overreach, but of calculated surveillance. According to the documents, this wasn't a case of, oops, I still had the password, but of deliberate, ongoing monitoring for specific purposes. The implications were staggering. These weren't just any messages. They were private communications between Abel and Justin Baldoni, Blake's co-star and apparent target. The documents allege that Blake's team cherry-picked and manipulated these illegally obtained texts to frame both Abel and Baldoni as villains in a lawsuit that seems increasingly questionable with each new filing. They weren't just reading these messages. They were weaponizing them, allegedly using private medical information and personal conversations to construct a narrative that served Blake's interests. As one legal filing stated, what they did with that stolen data, they cherry-picked and manipulated texts from Jennifer Abel's phone and framed both Abel and Justin Baldoni as villains. This wasn't just gathering information. This was allegedly manufacturing evidence, taking private conversations out of context and using them to push a specific narrative to the press. And not just any press. They were reportedly targeting major outlets like the New York Times, attempting to give their allegations the veneer of legitimacy that comes with prestigious publication. The scandal deepened when it was revealed that Blake's team allegedly created an entire fake lawsuit through something called Vans and Inc., an essentially inactive shell corporation that suddenly sprang to life when they needed legal cover. According to the court filings, this wasn't a legitimate legal action, but a paper-thin facade created for one purpose: to generate a subpoena that would make their dubious evidence look legitimate. As one legal expert explained in the documents, it was basically an empty legal sock puppet designed to retroactively justify actions that had already been taken. Why go to such elaborate lengths? Because even the New York Times wouldn't touch their story without legitimate documentation. The prestigious paper reportedly questioned the legality of the texts they were being shown, with internal staff discussions revealing ethical discomfort with the materials Blake's team was providing. Rather than backing off, court documents suggest that Blake's team doubled down, allegedly manufacturing legal cover through this dormant corporation. According to the filings, the goal was simple: create plausible deniability. Make it look legal, so when things go south, which they absolutely did, they could all go, oh no, we had a subpoena. This wasn't just bending the truth. This was constructing an entire alternate reality. The alleged goal was simple: create a facade of legitimacy to disguise what court filings now suggest was digital theft on an extraordinary scale. As one legal expert put it, this wasn't just unethical, it was potentially career-ending for the attorneys involved. The term abuse of process emerged in legal documents, suggesting Blake's team used the court system like a personal PR tool rather than a venue for justice. As attorney Ron Zambrano put it, Blake's team might have pulled off something so sketchy her lawyers could get disqualified entirely, not just removed from this case, but potentially facing professional consequences that could impact their entire careers. What makes this story even more chilling is Blake's own words from 2008 during the promotion of the first Simple Favor film. When asked about connecting with her darker character, she casually admitted, "It was just more like all the facades that I put up, I just had to let go. So you guys got to see the real me. I'm just a dark, horrible person." She delivered this with a smile, as if sharing a charming anecdote about her acting process. At the time, it seemed like playful banter. Now those words feel eerily prophetic. This wasn't just an offhand comment that's being blown out of proportion. It was a moment of startling candor that takes on new significance in light of recent allegations. When asked specifically about tapping into her character's darker nature, Blake didn't distance herself from those traits or talk about the challenges of playing someone so manipulative. Instead, she implied that the character's darkness was actually closer to her authentic self than the public persona she typically presents. "I just got to let my flag fly," she added, suggesting her usual public image was the performance, not the other way around. Even the film's director, Paul Feig, called Blake intimidating at the premiere, not in the complimentary "she's fierce" way, but with the uncomfortable energy of someone who'd seen behind the curtain and was bound by NDAs from saying more. When specifically asked why Blake was perfect for the role of Emily, Feig responded with telling hesitation, "Are they the same?" before quickly trying to course correct with, "Blake in real life is nothing like Emily." The contradiction was palpable, and his body language, the nervous glances, the forced smile, told a different story than his carefully chosen words. The press at the premiere seemed to hold their collective breath, aware they were one wrong question away from legal consequences. Entertainment reporters, typically eager to ask about on-set anecdotes or costume choices, stuck to strictly approved talking points, creating an atmosphere one insider described as walking on eggshells coated in landmines. Meanwhile, Blake floated through it all in designer wear, acting as if she wasn't standing in the middle of a legal hurricane she allegedly helped create. Her smile never faltered, her answers never strayed from the script, creating a surreal disconnect between the glamorous premiere and the damning legal documents being filed across town. And then there's Ryan Reynolds, the smiling accomplice in this unfolding drama. According to legal filings, he wasn't just aware of what was happening. He was allegedly approving strategic media placements designed to villainize Baldoni and Abel. Canada's sweetheart was now Blake Lively's damage control specialist, showing up at every event with practiced smiles and forced enthusiasm. The man who built his brand on being authentically funny now seemed like the most inauthentic person in the room, his trademark wit replaced by carefully crafted statements that said nothing while sounding supportive. At one point during the Wrexham celebration, Reynolds was captured on video telling fans, "I just care about your safety, not mine," a comment that once would have seemed charmingly self-deprecating, but now carried uncomfortable undertones given the allegations of privacy violations and surveillance. His entire persona seemed to shift before our eyes, the boyish charm replaced by something more calculated, more defensive. As he steered Blake through crowds, his hand firmly on her back, his eyes constantly scanning for potential threats, he looked less like a supportive husband and more like a crisis manager executing a carefully planned strategy. He was everywhere that weekend. The Time 100 Gala, the Wrexham victory, the Simple Favor premiere, performing the role of devoted husband while getting progressively tanner with each appearance. Social media didn't miss the irony, with comments suggesting he'd gone from Deadpool to Blake Lively's damage control intern. One viral tweet read, "Ryan Reynolds used to play a hero on screen. Now he's playing accomplice in real life." His carefully crafted image was collapsing under the weight of his wife's alleged actions, and the internet was watching it happen in real time. What makes Ryan's position particularly precarious is that he's always positioned himself as the good guy, the funny, self-deprecating Canadian who never takes himself too seriously. Now, court documents suggest he may have been actively involved in a campaign that allegedly violated privacy laws and manipulated the media. According to the filings, this wasn't just a case of standing by his wife during controversy. This was potentially being part of the strategy team orchestrating it. The man who once joked about his own vanity was now being accused of vanity on a much more troubling scale, the kind that allegedly disregards ethics and laws to maintain a carefully constructed public image. This is where Travis Kelce's unfollow becomes more than just celebrity gossip. It wasn't just shade, it was a digital divorce from the entire situation. While dating Taylor Swift, one of Blake's closest friends, Kelce made a clear statement, "I want no part in this." He could have simply muted Ryan's posts, a private action that would have achieved the same personal result without public implications. Instead, he chose the nuclear option, a public disassociation that he knew would be noticed and analyzed. This wasn't impulse, this was intention, and his girlfriend's silence was equally deafening. Taylor Swift, who can trend for 48 hours by simply posting an emoji, didn't like, comment, or acknowledge any of Blake's activities that weekend. The woman known for her squad loyalty, who once included Blake in her music videos and vacation photos, suddenly seemed to be keeping her distance. There was no supportive comment on Blake's Time 100 honor, no congratulatory post about the film premiere, no citing of her among the celebrities who showed up to support Blake and Ryan. Her absence wasn't just physical, it was digital, a conspicuous void where her usual support would have been. The unfollow sent shockwaves through social media, millions of reposts, think pieces, and celebrity reactions. It became the cultural equivalent of a public rejection, the moment the tide visibly turned against Hollywood's golden couple. When a guy who's dating Taylor Swift won't touch your mess, that's a red flag with fireworks, as one viral post put it. People who hadn't posted since 2017 suddenly emerged to ask, wait, what did Blake do now? The conversation wasn't just about an Instagram unfollow, it was about what that action symbolized. A loss of trust, a withdrawal of social capital, a public statement of I don't co-sign this. What made the unfollow particularly significant was its timing. This wasn't a random Tuesday. This was during Blake and Ryan's most orchestrated weekend of public appearances in recent memory. They were everywhere, flooding social media with carefully staged photos and videos, presenting a united front of success and happiness. And right in the middle of this PR blitz, one of Hollywood's most visible stars chose to publicly distance himself. The contrast couldn't have been more stark or more damaging. While Blake and Ryan were desperately trying to control the narrative, Travis Kelce was quietly but definitively rejecting it. Even media outlets that typically play it safe began treading carefully. Entertainment Tonight, TMZ, and others suddenly seemed hesitant to platform Blake's narrative without legal verification. Reports emerged that staff meetings were being held to discuss how to cover the story without potentially repeating allegations based on illegally obtained evidence. The woman who once commanded fawning coverage was now a walking liability. No outlet wanted to be caught promoting a story that might be built on allegedly illegally obtained evidence, especially after the New York Times reportedly declined to run with it, despite significant pressure. This shift in media approach was unprecedented for someone of Blake's status. This wasn't just the usual celebrity scandal coverage. This was outlets actively distancing themselves from a narrative they would typically amplify without question. The entertainment press, usually eager to report on celebrity conflicts with minimal verification, was suddenly approaching Blake's story with unusual caution. Legal experts were being consulted before running stories, and coverage increasingly included caveats and careful language, a stark contrast to the uncritical amplification her PR had previously enjoyed. The fallout continues to spread. Ron Zambrano, a prominent entertainment lawyer not directly involved in the case, suggested that Blake's legal team could face disqualification if the allegations prove true. Self-help gone rogue was how he described it, a polite way of saying they allegedly cheated and got caught. The legal implications extend far beyond this immediate case. Every time there's a new amended version of any type of either answer or claim, the other side gets a new opportunity to attack it with a motion to dismiss, or what we call a motion to strike, Zambrano explained, suggesting that Blake's aggressive tactics might have opened the door to additional legal challenges rather than shutting down the controversy. Instead of burying the controversy, Blake's aggressive tactics might have just invited more scrutiny, more counterclaims, and more damage to her carefully cultivated image. What began as a dispute with Baldoni could potentially expand to include new claims of invasion of privacy, abuse of process, and possibly even federal wiretapping violations. The legal documents suggest this isn't just about winning in court anymore. It's about potential liability for actions taken during the legal process itself. As one filing stated, these sketchy tactics open the door for new counterclaims, including invasion of privacy and more abuse of process, which means instead of burying the controversy, Blake might have just lit a bigger fire under it. Blake Lively spent years selling us a perfectly curated version of herself, the relatable wife, the loving mother, the cheeky red carpet commentator with the perfect Instagram aesthetic. Her brand was built on a specific kind of approachable glamour, designer clothes paired with self-deprecating captions, high fashion photos with relatable commentary. She positioned herself as different from other Hollywood stars, more authentic, more genuine, the girl next door who just happened to have perfect hair and a movie star husband. Her social media presence was a masterclass in controlled vulnerability, sharing just enough to seem open while carefully curating every image and word. But behind that image allegedly lurked someone willing to violate privacy laws, manipulate media outlets, and weaponize her husband's fame to crush anyone who dared challenge her narrative. The court documents paint a picture not of the relatable figure she portrayed, but of someone who allegedly orchestrated surveillance, manipulated evidence, and created fake legal actions to maintain control of her public image. This wasn't just typical celebrity image management. This was allegedly crossing lines that most wouldn't even approach, accessing private medical information, manipulating private communications, and using the legal system as a weapon rather than a venue for justice. The facade isn't just cracking, it's completely falling apart. With each new legal filing, each celebrity distancing, each careful media disclaimer, the carefully constructed image becomes harder to maintain. The contrast between the Blake Lively of carefully filtered Instagram posts and the Blake Lively described in legal documents couldn't be more stark. One is the quirky, relatable star with the perfect life. The other is allegedly manipulative mastermind running media stunts with forged lawsuits. As one viral comment put it, the aesthetic isn't quirky mom with a dry sense of humor anymore. It's allegedly manipulative mastermind with a team of lawyers. And while Blake continues posting as if it's business as usual, the world is watching with new eyes. Her recent posts, still perfectly lit, still carefully captioned, now generate comments that read more like forensic analyses than fan reactions. Every word choice is scrutinized, every image examined for signs of the behavior described in court documents. What once looked like aspirational lifestyle content now appears suspect, potentially constructed to distract from or contradict the allegations unfolding in legal filings. The more she pretends nothing has changed, the more obvious the desperation becomes. This isn't just another celebrity scandal that will fade with the next news cycle. The allegations involve potential federal offenses, legal ethics violations, and manipulation of both the media and the justice system. These aren't the kind of claims that disappear with a well-timed charity donation or a tearful interview. They strike at the heart of not just Blake and Ryan's public image, but potentially their legal and professional standing. If the allegations prove true, the consequences could extend far beyond bad publicity to potential legal liability, professional sanctions for their attorneys, and lasting damage to their relationships within the industry. As for Ryan Reynolds, he faces a crucial choice: continue standing beside a sinking ship or finally acknowledge what's happening. Because in scandals of this magnitude, silence isn't neutrality, it's complicity. Each appearance, each supportive comment, each deflection ties him more closely to the allegations, making it increasingly difficult to separate his brand from the controversy. The man who built his career on playing lovable rogues now risks becoming the villain in a real-life drama, not because he's accused of accessing the private data himself, but because he allegedly knew about and supported the strategy built around it. And if Travis Kelce's unfollow is any indication, Hollywood is already choosing sides. The industry that once embraced Blake and Ryan as its most marketable couple is now watching carefully, calculating the risks of continued association. Hugh Jackman and Emily Blunt may have shown up at the premiere, but how many others are quietly distancing themselves, declining invitations, or rethinking collaborative projects? In an industry built on perception and relationships, the damage is already spreading far beyond Instagram metrics. The question now isn't whether Blake and Ryan's PR empire will crumble. It's how many others they'll take down with them when it falls. Will their legal team face professional consequences? Will media outlets that amplified their narrative face scrutiny for their role? Will other celebrities who vouched for them be tainted by association? The carefully constructed house of cards isn't just wobbling, it's collapsing in real time, and the debris field threatens to be extensive. What makes this story particularly compelling is that it's not just about celebrity gossip or manufactured drama. It's about the gap between image and reality, between the stories we're sold and the truth behind them. Blake and Ryan built an empire on seeming authentic while allegedly orchestrating one of Hollywood's most inauthentic campaigns. The irony isn't lost on anyone watching, least of all Travis Kelce, who with one simple click may have started the avalanche that brings the whole illusion crashing down.